new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
Yeah.
One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any, is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this.
The crowd burst into laughter the moment the punchline landed. But Greg Gutfeld wasn't simply satisfied with landing a joke. He seized the moment to spotlight what he described as glaring double standards. Sunny Hostin has repeatedly spoken about the importance of holding people accountable for historical privilege, placing emphasis on generational responsibility and structural inequality. Yet she appeared to brush aside the complicated history within her own family as something belonging to a distant era. Gutfeld zeroed in on that contradiction. Moments like this, he argued, expose the pitfalls of identity-driven politics, especially when someone's public stance clashes with their personal background. He argued that under closer scrutiny, Hostin's tone of moral authority began to crumble, serving as a reminder that conversations about race and history demand humility, consistency, and honest reflection.
She's so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one?
Advocates like Sunny Hostin, in Gutfeld's view, tend to reduce layered issues into identity-focused talking points while sidestepping uncomfortable specifics, especially when those specifics reveal personal contradictions. He argued that the deeper irony lay in the fact that Hostin appeared to minimize the reality that her own ancestors were connected to a system she openly and forcefully opposes. She brushed off the relevance while ignoring the contradiction embedded in her own position. For Gutfeld, this was bigger than a television moment. He framed it as an illustration of how public outrage can overshadow personal accountability. The reaction online was immediate. Cutting jokes and memes spread rapidly, including a widely shared remark about reparations suggesting she could simply write the check to herself. Reactions flooded platforms like TikTok and Twitter. While many condemned what they viewed as a double standard, others defended Hostin, arguing that no one should bear responsibility for the actions of their forebears.
In her defense, everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. Worried for Sunny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now. Why I'm so stupid and fat.
This ignited a deeply divisive conversation. Should prominent public figures like Sunny Hostin be held to the same moral bar they set for everyone else? Her reaction, according to critics, lacked the kind of self-reflection and growth that audiences might expect from someone with such a visible platform. But Hostin's dismissive response to her family's history shifted the conversation away from possible introspection and toward accusations of hypocrisy. It evolved into yet another debate about who truly bears moral responsibility, as attention moved from the nuances of ancestry and inherited guilt to her apparent reluctance to confront her own past. Even Whoopi Goldberg appeared briefly caught off guard when it emerged that her own family had owned enslaved people. The atmosphere was quite different on Gutfeld's show, however, where Greg Gutfeld and his co-hosts delivered sharp criticism alongside lighthearted jabs, including the suggestion that Hostin might need to cancel herself given her family's history. Supporters argued that their satirical critique exposed clear inconsistencies in her moral stance. A more layered perspective was offered by Rosie O'Donnell.
Guess there's nothing worse than to find out you're a white woman.
She's so disappointed.
It's really disappointing.
Her mother was white.
Oh my
The
God.
shame.
Oh my God.
The horror. History, and finds out that this is fantastic. She is descended from slaveholders. She's descended from slaveholders, and she's been apparently getting a lot of mail about her call for reparations because it turns out she's going to be paying them and not actually
She warned against reducing complex subjects like race and history to oversimplified terms and stressed that individuals should be judged by their own actions rather than by the legacy of their ancestors. Her viewpoint illustrated how such revelations can shake up long-held assumptions and spark difficult but necessary self-examination. The responses following Hostin's comments were noticeably divided. Some viewed it as yet another example of identity politics taken too far, while others saw it as a moment calling for personal accountability. Regardless of where one stood, the intensity of her remarks was impossible to dismiss. What could have been an opportunity for genuine growth instead became a flashpoint due to the perceived hypocrisy and her apparent unwillingness to reckon with her past. This episode is a reminder that everyone carries a complicated history. It raises a fundamental question: should we hold ourselves to the same standard of accountability we demand from others? Hostin's legacy will ultimately hinge on how she navigates this, whether she chooses to confront it directly or move on.
Shout out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
Sunny's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and it's nothing.
Just go for it. Yeah.
Sunny Hostin's personal life found itself entangled in controversy once again, this time surrounding her husband, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, who was at the center of a significant legal dispute. The charges are serious: insurance fraud, attorney kickbacks, and a sweeping RICO case involving 180 defendants. This is far from an ordinary legal matter and could carry major consequences for the medical industry. Dr. Hostin and others are accused of orchestrating a scheme that involved accepting bribes for unnecessary surgical procedures, submitting fraudulent insurance claims for operations that may never have occurred, and exploiting the healthcare system for personal financial gain. Picture insurance providers unknowingly reimbursing costs for unneeded anesthesia procedures. If these allegations prove accurate, it could rank among the most disturbing medical scandals in recent times.
Citizen that has a policy. I mean, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan should be removed from Spotify. He's got 11 million listeners. He's got $100 million, contract as of 2020. But I do think as the podcast platform, you have to have some sort of guidelines. How about a disclaimer on his podcast that says, this is misinformation? How about removing some of the podcasts that disseminate this misinformation?
They have.
Daniel Fout, the attorney representing Dr. Hostin, responded by stating that the lawsuit has no merit and that the insurance company is using the legal action to obscure its own financial troubles. What amplifies the story further is Hostin's personal connection to the situation. Reports suggest she may have been aware of her husband's questionable conduct, adding yet another layer of pressure. Joe Rogan publicly criticized Sunny Hostin for what he saw as hypocrisy, noting that she appeared to overlook her husband's alleged misconduct while openly questioning others for dispensing medical guidance. His comments dealt a serious blow to her public image and intensified scrutiny around her. How she responds, whether through direct engagement or continued silence, will shape how the public perceives her going forward, underscoring just how fragile high-profile reputations can be. Attention then shifted toward Carrie Underwood's performance at the presidential inauguration.
Understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon.
People questioned how someone could declare love for their country while simultaneously normalizing a convicted felon. Celebrated for her undeniable talent and spotless reputation, the country music star suddenly found herself at the center of a storm. Rather than being a moment of pride honoring her artistry, it devolved into waves of backlash. Some went as far as claiming that by agreeing to perform, she was effectively endorsing a convicted criminal. Yet her singing had nothing to do with the controversy itself. The public's inability to separate their admiration for her as a performer from their own political views drove the backlash, turning applause into criticism and celebration into conflict.
Superstar Carrie Underwood has spent most of her career avoiding political talk, but she's set to perform at the upcoming inauguration. She said in a statement that she's doing it because the country must come together in the spirit of unity and look to the future. And lots of her fans aren't thrilled about it, but lots of her fans are. So let's put this in perspective here. What do y'all think?
I personally hope we're moving beyond the era of politics where we want to cancel people's livelihoods because we don't like their politics. And whether it was the Dixie Chicks for criticizing George Bush, didn't agree with it then, and Carrie Underwood, if you have a problem, you register your complaint by not downloading her songs and not going to her shows.
Sorry.
But I also think from a business standpoint, it's not a bad decision for Carrie Underwood. 75 million people voted for Trump. Artists tend to skew left-leaning. So she's overnight going to become an icon of MAGA and the American right. She's probably going to make a lot of money off of it. So I get why she did it.
Superstar Carrie Underwood has largely steered clear of political commentary throughout her career, yet she committed to performing at the upcoming inauguration. She released a statement explaining that she was doing it because the nation needs to unite in a spirit of togetherness and look toward what lies ahead. Many of her fans were unhappy with the decision, but many others were not. So let's put this into context. What's everyone's take? Personally, I hope we're moving past a period in politics where people want to destroy someone's career simply because they disagree with their choices. Whether it was the Dixie Chicks for speaking out against George Bush, I didn't support that then, or Carrie Underwood now, if you take issue with it, register your disapproval by not streaming her music or attending her concerts. From a business perspective, though, this wasn't necessarily a bad move for Carrie Underwood. 75 million people cast their votes for Trump. Artists generally lean left. So overnight, she's likely become a symbol for MAGA and the American right. She'll probably profit considerably from it, so the reasoning behind her decision is understandable. Despite the wave of criticism, Carrie refused to waver. She held her ground, earning the admiration of a new audience that respected her for standing firm in her convictions. Many of her fellow artists in the country music world, however, stayed quiet, fearful of backlash or the loss of corporate partnerships. Not Carrie. She faced the scrutiny head-on with confidence. The View went so far as to claim that Carrie's rendition of America the Beautiful somehow amounted to support for a convicted felon. But no laws were broken, only manufactured outrage. Her act of patriotism laid bare the hypocrisy embedded in cancel culture. As the controversy faded, Carrie's career surged forward, albums climbing the charts, shows selling out, and reviews pouring in, proving that staying true to yourself leaves a mark that endures.